All right, people. So, welcome to Jumbo IAS and welcome to UPSC Prelims Phoenix batch. In this batch, we cover the entire syllabus, revise the entire syllabus for UPSC Prelims examination, both static as well as current affairs. Now, this particular lecture is related to our static lecture series in Phoenix batch, and you already know this because you have been following us for quite some time. You are already enrolled in our Phoenix batch. You know this that currently we are going through ancient and medieval history, and today is day 8 for ancient and medieval history. Now, today's targets were, well, Delhi Sultanate Part 2, which includes Tughlaq's, Lodhi's, Sayyid dynasty. Okay. After today's lecture, we'll shift on to Mughals, right? So these are today's targets. The notes for these targets have been already shared with you. I hope you have revised them already before sitting for this lecture because that is really important. The idea of Phoenix batch is that you get to revise your entire syllabus at least 3 times. First, through the notes. Second, through this lecture. Okay. And third, through the test. Okay. Preparing for the test. Right. So I hope you have already revised the notes. Now let's revise them again. Revise Delhi Sultanate Part 2 again through a set of 30 MCQs. All right, then let's begin. So ancient medieval history day 8 and today's targets were Tughlaq's, Sayyid dynasty, a brief period, and the Lodhi dynasty, the last dynasty of Delhi Sultanate, the first Afghan dynasty. All right. Now, these were our targets. Let's start revising them one by one through a set of 30 MCQs. So let's begin. So question number 1. Consider the following statements. Ziauddin Barani was a contemporary of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Ziauddin Barani authored Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi that described the history of Sultanate up to Firoz Tughlaq. Okay. Now, the thing is that Ziauddin Barani was a courtier in Muhammad bin Tughlaq and he was a contemporary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq as well. And he did write Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. He also wrote many other books, okay, with respect to political science, political philosophy, all these things. So, yes, he was a contemporary of both Muhammad bin Tughlaq as well as Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So, both are correct in this case. Okay, question 2. Which of the following statements are correct regarding the work carried out by Firoz Shah Tughlaq of Delhi Sultanate? He established sarais for the benefits of merchants and travelers. Sarais would mean hotels. He established hospitals known as Darul Shafa, Bimarstan or Shafa Khana. Recruitment to the armed forces was made hereditary. Now, the thing is that Delhi Sultanate reached its zenith, its peak during Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Let's call him MBT. Okay. The empire was also very big. It extended up to South India. But after Muhammad bin Tughlaq, due to frequent rebellions, well, the authority of Sultan started declining. Okay. Now understand this entire concept in this way. That when the authority of Sultan starts to decline, he starts to please everybody. First, Firoz Shah Tughlaq was pleasing the general public. He established sarais for the benefit of merchants and travelers. That's true. He established hospitals as well. Okay, this is also true. And the thing is that whenever the authority of Sultan starts to decline, you will see that military commanders, their authority increases. Okay, Sultan's authority is declining, military commanders or the nobility's authority is increasing, the power is becoming more and more decentralized. This is the sign of weakening of a monarchy. Okay, and that was there during Firoz Shah Tughlaq. It was not there during Muhammad bin Tughlaq because MBT was extremely powerful. But after that, during Firoz Shah Tughlaq, well, you will see the authority of commanders increasing. And that is why these offices, these military posts were made hereditary. Because nobody would want to leave that post from their family. The military commander's post wouldn't be left wouldn't be left by the family. So these people ensured that this post remains in their family. So it was made hereditary. Recruitment to the armed forces was made hereditary. So this is absolutely correct. Again, you'll see this. During Delhi Sultanate, the powerful sultans weakened nobility. Okay, nobles. Balban did that. Alauddin Khilji did that. Muhammad bin Tughlaq did that. But all the others, well, they wanted to please the nobility because their power was not that extreme. That was evident in Firoz Shah Tughlaq as well. So the answer to this question would be D. Okay, next. Why did Muhammad bin Tughlaq change his capital from Delhi to Devgiri, which was later called Daulatabad in Maharashtra? Okay. Now, the thing is that Muhammad bin Tughlaq thought that his empire extends from north to south. Okay, he gave two logics. First logic was that since his empire is so big, it would be really difficult to administer this empire from Delhi. Therefore, he wanted to shift his capital to, well, center. Okay, and that is why he wanted to shift his capital. He actually shifted his capital from Delhi to Devgiri. Number two, Delhi was in North India, and North and Northwest India were vulnerable to Mongol attacks. And remember, during Delhi Sultanate period, the Mongols were a force to reckon with. Everyone was afraid of them. Alauddin Khilji managed to repel them. Even Muhammad bin Tughlaq managed to repel them. But he knew that these constant attacks, okay, even though he's able to repel them, these constant attacks are draining his treasury. Okay, they are draining his treasury. They are draining wealth. Okay, so that is why it was because of Mongols and shifting the administration to center. So, because he wanted to escape from Mongolian invasion is the most appropriate answer to this question. So, this is correct. All right, next. Consider the following statements about the administrative reforms undertaken by Firoz Shah Tughlaq and choose the correct ones. He was the first sultan to impose irrigation tax. He made the Ikta system hereditary. Now you know the logic, okay? You see, history is not about remembering everything. Most of the questions in history can be solved through logic. How? I told you after MBT, well, the Sultanate started weakening, decentralizing, right? And economically also it was becoming weak. Now, when it becomes economically weak, new taxes come about. So, sultans were inventing new ways to tax people. And that is why, well, Firoz Shah Tughlaq started with this irrigation tax, okay, which he called Hake Sharb, which means, well, right to use water. Basically, you have to give a tax. He started irrigation tax. This is absolutely correct. Again, a sign of weakening authority or economically weakened authority of sultan. Plus, economically also the sultanate was declining. That's why new taxes were being invented. And yes, we have discussed this. He made the Ikta system hereditary. Strong and powerful sultans would never make iqtidars hereditary. They are powerful. They will frequently transfer them so that they don't become regionally powerful. But when your authority is weakened, you have to listen to your military commanders. They are strong now, which means, well, they would demand hereditary rights. You will give them. Okay. So this is also correct. C. Right? Next. Muhammad bin Tughlaq's experiment of introducing token currency could not succeed on account of. Now remember, Muhammad bin Tughlaq is known as the wisest fool. He was intelligent, he was really well educated, and he had some very good ideas, which in the most appropriate circumstances would have definitely worked. But luck was not on his side, and that is why his genius experiments failed. One genius experiment was introducing token currency. Okay, so he would keep gold and silver in his treasury and issue new copper coins, which were backed by gold and silver in his treasury. But this token currency experiment failed. Why? Because people started counterfeiting it. Okay, large scale minting of spurious coins. Spurious copper coins means counterfeit currency. That was being done on a large scale. And what people were doing were that they never had faith in this token currency of Sultan. Okay, it was not a legal tender back then. I mean, Sultan tried to make it a legal tender, but it lacked that authority. So what did the people do? They would pay taxes in token currency, copper, and they would hoard gold and silver in their own homes. So through taxes, government was not able to collect gold and silver. So government was short of gold and silver. So this experiment failed. Okay, but modern economies use this experiment, but this experiment during the time of Sultan actually failed. Nonetheless, C is the answer. Okay, next. Consider the following statements about Dhasala system. It was instituted by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. It was kind of permanent settlement system. Now remember, Dhasala system was introduced by Akbar, the Mughal emperor. Okay, and Well, it was not permanent settlement. The revenue was set for 10 years. That's why the sala. For 10 years, your revenue would be fixed and then revised every 10 years based on your land's fertility. Not permanent settlement. Permanent settlement was introduced by the British. Okay, so both the statements are false. Clear? Next. Which of the following statements about Muhammad bin Tughlaq is correct? He introduced paper currency, he introduced the postal system, he was the ablest man among the crowned heads of medieval age, none of the above. So he did not introduce paper currency, he introduced token currency, token coins. He did not introduce postal system. He was the ablest man among the crowned heads of medieval age. Yes, ablest man, but his experiments failed. So you can't call him the ablest. Okay, because most of his experiments failed. He was the most educated, but he failed. So this is also false. None of the above. Because after all, the world judges you with results. No matter how genius you are, if you cannot show to the world that you're genius, well, nobody would believe you. So you can't be categorized as the most ablest. Okay, because your experiments failed in reality. They look genius in your own head. They failed in reality. Okay, so D. Next. With reference to the administration of 18th century India, the word takavi refers to a type of tax to be paid by farmers as well as merchants during war, a type of religious grant given by rulers to the temples, decree of the Mughal emperor which gave EIC, a type of agricultural loan. This takavi system was loans given to farmers to buy seeds and make all kinds of investments. So takavi is that. All right. D. Examine the following statements. Ibn Battuta visited India during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was the first sultan to give high offices to people based on merit. Okay. Now, Ibn Battuta was a Moroccan traveler who wrote about India and traveled to many other places also. He visited India during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and at one point of time, Muhammad bin Tughlaq imprisoned him, then released him and made him a Qazi. Qazi would be a judge of sorts. Okay, so Ibn Battuta did visit during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Okay, he wrote a book called Rihala. So there are two major travelers that you know about. Well, Al-Biruni, who wrote Kitabul Hind, and Ibn Battuta, who wrote Rihala. Okay, so this is correct. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was the first sultan to give high offices to people on the basis of merit. No, remember I told you strong sultans do that. Weak sultans go for hereditary distribution of public offices. Firoz Shah Tughlaq in fact stopped merit-based recruitment. He started hereditary recruitment. Okay, so this is completely false. Muhammad bin Tughlaq did that on merit. Alauddin Khalji did that on merit, but not, well, Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So the answer would come out to be A. All right, next. Consider the following statement